Now, the oracle, how did that work? There were several oracles in Greece. The famous one was the Oracle of Delphi. If you've ever visited Delphi, it's a very dramatic setting. Delphi is on a mountaintop, and above Delphi rises a higher mountain. So you have this very magnificent, beautiful setting. But at Delphi, there was evidently a split in the rock, and fumes used to rise from this split. Now, the priests of Delphi, over the course of decades, probably centuries, had built a reputation. The reputation was that they knew what was going to happen, and they could probably tell you the future. So here are the priests of Delphi, and they're in possession of all this information. And they have an idea of what's going on, and they also have the problem of being careful how to predict things, because it's tricky and it's also dangerous, and they actually failed once, and that was the end of their reputation. But for centuries they had this reputation of almost infallible ability to predict. Now, the way they would work it was also dramatic. The first thing they did was, as you approached Delphi, and it was built a temple with various, there was an arch, and above it in Greek was written, "Know thyself." Okay, that's a warning. Then you came in, and they prepared. Apollo was the god who gave the messages. The priestess who spoke and listened to Apollo and conveyed his message was called Pythia, which means the serpent. So Pythia was the priestess. Now, who was Pythia? They would take young women, and they would train them what they have to do and how they are to behave. And before they would come to do the oracle, Pythia would be prepared. I don't know whether they gave her marijuana or something else, or wine, or both. I don't know. You know, marijuana was widely used in the Middle East in ancient times. In fact, the Phoenicians always had marijuana on their ships to give the sailors, keep them calm on long journeys. But they found Phoenician ships with a lot of marijuana in the ship. By the way, it's mentioned in the Bible too. What is marijuana's name in Greek? It's cannabis, isn't it?
That's right.
Cannabis. In the Bible, it's spelled panagis. The consonants are switched, but this happens many times from one language to another. So it's called panag in the Bible, kannab in Greek, cannabis. In any event, it was widely used. Then they would also prepare her by making her fast for a couple of days. No food, no water, completely fasting. And then they would bring her into this place, and above the crack in the rock from which fumes used to come, they had built a bell-shaped top with a hole at the top. Anyway, they would approach her and they would say, "Here stands Croesus, king of Lydia, and he is asking a very important question." And they would give her the question. And then she would put her head down into that hole, and she would take a deep breath, and another one, and then she would stand up and she would start screaming and jabbering. And the priests were listening, and they were making notes, and they were interpreting what she said. And then finally, when she fainted, they would take her away, and they would read what they had written, and they would give the answer. The answer was the god Apollo, and you heard Pythia speaking. Maybe you heard what she said, maybe you understood, but we understood what she said. And they give the answer. Now, it's interesting how they spoke. The great question was, Croesus, king of Lydia, was threatened by Cyrus of Persia. Cyrus of Persia had established his control over Persia, Babylon, Israel, and was now confronting Lydia at the banks of the Halys River, which cuts through Turkey. Lydia was on the western part of, it was the kingdom of western Anatolia. Now, Lydia is wondering, priestess of Lydia wondering, shall I attack these Persians? Shall I not attack them? Don't know what to do. You got to ask the god. So he went to the Oracle of Apollo, and he said, shall I cross the Halys River and attack the Persian forces? Well, the answer was, if you cross the Halys River and attack the Persian forces, you will cause a great empire to fall. Well, he was encouraged. Back home, and he launched his attack. Crossed the Halys River, launched his attack. Cyrus hit him. Cyrus hit him so hard that he retreated, went back to his capital city, and wrote letters to the Spartans and to the others and said, you got to come against this threat from the east. In the meantime, Cyrus and his army are moving non-stop. They don't stop for the night. They just move. 3 days later, he looks out and he's surrounded by the Persian forces. And of course, finished. It's over. He complained. The priest said, we told you, you will cause a great empire to fall. Happens to have been your own empire. We did not lie. That's the way they managed somehow to always phrase it in a way where you were stuck with the interpretation. You had to figure it out.